Hey everyone, and welcome back to Hive Live. I'm Alex Nette, and today we're diving into a topic that sparks anxiety across security and compliance teams everywhere: cybersecurity audits. But here's the thing: audits don't have to suck. So we're sitting down with someone who's actually doing something about it. Let's go. About it. If you're not already following us, what are you waiting for? We're dropping cybersecurity insights daily on all our major social media platforms under @Hive Systems. So go hit that follow button. Joining me today is Chris Watson, the CEO of Audora, a company that's changing the game with audit automation. Chris is a visionary, a cybersecurity leader with nearly 3 decades of experience driving innovation in information security, audit, and risk management. All of that is combined to successfully build and scale cybersecurity programs for Fortune 500 companies, startups, and even navigating complex regulatory landscapes while fostering strong teams. Chris is passionate about solving real-world security challenges, and Chris's work develops forward-thinking strategies that protect data, build trust, and drives business growth. Chris, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. Pleasure to be here.
Amazing. So one of the first things I really want to get into, and the elephant in the room amongst all of this, is
Right.
why do cybersecurity audits feel so painful, really for everybody involved, from auditors to the people going through the audits?
Yeah, what a great question. In general, I think audits, often been treated really as a one-time event, rather than an ongoing process like it should. I mean, auditors understand, that audits can feel intrusive to customers, even though they are a necessary requirement. So, however, I think by taking a more proactive and collaborative approach throughout the year, rather than just that at an audit time, I think organizations can achieve more, accurate results, while reinforcing the importance of these audits and strengthening their security posture, which is what's the most important thing. I think, this leads to many of the same frustrations auditors, and their clients continue to face today. I think there's still a lot of inefficiencies because many organizations, treat audits really as a one-time scramble rather than that ongoing collaborative process. We know this can lead to last-minute fire drills. You get duplicated efforts and a lot of wasted time tracking down information that should be readily available. Having taken more, if you had taken really a more evolved and a more proactive approach, I think that really helps. I think the other thing that it gets talked about a lot is this reliance on manual processes. I think still to this day, it's still quite surprising to me with the amount of technology we have at our fingertips that manual processes are still a big thing. Security and compliance teams often still rely on spreadsheets, emails, these custom homegrown tools, and just shared folders to collect and manage a lot of audit evidence. And this manual approach really hasn't changed. It's starting to, but it's still there. It's still often slow. It's error prone and difficult to scale as compliant requirements grow. And with the complexity of the regulatory landscape, this is just going to make it more difficult going forward and really unsustainable, in my opinion.
Interesting. I was an auditor in a previous life, and I know you were as well. Why do you think auditors especially are still staying in that realm of spreadsheets and email? Is it just a function of comfort in kind of that approach? Does it give kind of flexibility for those spreadsheets? Or is it just that everyone agrees that these audits are miserable, so why innovate, right? Just make the process miserable so misery has, misery is company.
Right. No, I think it's a good question as well. I mean, I think auditors, when they get kind of set into their process, into their ways, it's something that it just feels comfortable to them. And, they're the ones that have to conduct the audit. They're the ones who have to, gather the evidence and, really have to do that execution. And for them, it is a creature comfort. I mean, I think today, and their feeling as well is, if you go to the technology, am I going to lose that control? I think is another big thing as well. Is the technology going to start making decisions for me? Is it going to make it too easy? Is it going to work me out of a job or a role? And I think, that's been kind of the manner by which many of the audit firms have been today. But I mean, I think many are starting to see that technology can actually make them better at what they do, make their jobs more comfortable, make the process not only better for them, but can also make it better for their customers.
I think that's definitely probably where the opportunity is in all of this. Taking a step back too, you mentioned that audits haven't evolved much really to match kind of today's digital environment and world.
Yeah.
What do you think has kind of contributed to that? Why are we still kind of sitting behind? Is it where things have been from a technology perspective? Has it just been the pace of development and audits lagging behind and not needing to innovate? What do you think has kind of historically contributed there?
Yeah, no, I think the audit landscape has been kind of slow to make changes in certain ways. I think traditional audits have been designed to be much more static.
Mhm.
Like an on-premise where system controls changed very infrequently. But today, I think tech environments have changed so much. Of course, we got the dynamic; they're cloud-based, they're highly automated. But I don't think audits in general have really evolved to keep that pace.
Hmm.
I think with everything being much more dynamic, where things are constantly changing, traditional audits really kind of focus more at this point in time approaches, which really are antiquated
Hmm.
in today's market. I mean, businesses are moving at pace and at speed. Audits need to be able to be flexible and move kind of with the speed of the business, that they're auditing,
Hmm.
even with these, traditional kind of static, frameworks.
Yeah.
Um, I also think, customers are relying on automation more than ever. And all these spreadsheets, all this stuff they use, evidence collection through manual process, et cetera, just continues, to create these frustrations, even done at a point in time. So I think those frameworks just haven't evolved, right? They stay, they're evolving. We've got a lot more, but they're still haven't really evolved to be as dynamic, and I think is to really align with kind of the digital landscape.
That's interesting because, yeah, maybe it's not so much auditors being comfortable in their process or being lazy or adverse to change.
Yeah,
Yeah, maybe it's a function that a lot of these frameworks have not really changed. So even though the environments and the approaches and implementations have changed, why change the audit methodology, right? It works because it matches the framework.
right.
So just stick with what's working, spreadsheets and emails, I guess.
Yeah, I mean it's this mindset of this, and it's again the one size fits all kind of mindset, which is really what traditional audits have been for a
Mhm.
long time. It's really looking to the groups like the AICPA and its auditors in general, and kind of working with these groups to kind of evolve these frameworks to be able to be more flexible and more dynamic. I mean, I know it's an audit, so there's really strict requirements and things you have to follow once to identify the right level of controls, the evidence that supports that,
Mhm.
and things at a point in time. But that's really where these frameworks need to be to adapt to be more of a collaborative, kind of an ongoing process of an audit, even though it may happen once a year. Being able to involve your clients and the audit process and framework itself to be flexible, to work with them kind of year round on the audit, it just make the process much more easier. And with the dynamic aspect of the business and the changes that things are making, I think it'll just make it easier on everyone.
That's
Everybody
a
will
good
be less
point. Just
frustrated.
that dynamicism. I think every new week there's a new piece of technology. There's a new AI. People are using a new
Right.
database format. So companies are moving at a fast pace.
Yeah.
I think that brings up actually an interesting question because at kind of that speed and scale, it definitely fits into the world of startups.
Right.
And so now I'm
Yep.
starting to think about startups are probably the ones who are the most annoyed, I would say, by these cybersecurity audits, right? Larger companies who go through them generally have the personnel, the GRC teams, the compliance teams to help
Yep.
support, build it out, and even the engineering and product teams to answer all the questions. Many startups are have their people wearing many hats. And so for them, they're trying to move through this. But as a result, I feel like there's often this scramble. A small startup has landed some giant company. The giant company says, we want to work with you, but we cannot do it until you show us a SOC 2 or an ISO 27001. And so they're scrambling to get this done. So
Right.
as a result, there's just this last minute rush to get this thing. Uh, in particular, really, I think it's about this whole audit experience is broken for them.
Right.
What do you think really on the whole kind of contributes to that being broken for startups?
Yeah, no, I think the aspect of, you know, again, with a startup, again, you kind of hit on one of the key points, which is, they have, maybe a lack of resources, or, resources wearing multiple hats, or even dependency on consultants,
Hmm.
to help. And, audit firms have to be able to, kind of understand and be able to kind of, help them adapt and work with them, through these challenges. And I think, they got other priorities, right? They've got development priorities, got sales priorities, trying to maybe build, bring, revenue in with sales, et cetera. And if they're asking them to take their time away to do an audit, it's already frustrating for them, even though they know that it's maybe a critical requirement. So I think, that goes back to this kind of collaborative approach and working, especially with startups, once you start, is kind of working with them to, build out that process going forward. And I think what audit firms also have to understand is, they lack that compliance readiness, right? They with all these resources, going to need help with this. And a lot of them are looking to tools like these compliance platforms. And I think, again, audit firms have to, look and realize that, startups, in trying to stay lean, trying to work at pace, they're working more with a lot of things around automation, and compliance platforms like Drata, like Vanta. They provide them the ability to capture, a lot of their intellectual property, et cetera, that would help an audit firm in the process of easier evidence gathering, working with them more easily to conduct those audits. And I think that's where that's headed. So for them, for audit firms, one, understanding that these are the challenges, that, startups are facing, and being able to adapt and work with them, which we're talking about, we'll talk about Audora, but automation, real-time monitoring, real-time evidence collection, these are the things that are going to make their life a lot easier and allow them to be able to conduct these audits at pace, and working with you as an audit firm.
And Van and Trata, these and other similar companies that fit in this audit compliance platform space, we'll come back and touch on them a little bit later for sure.
Yeah.
But definitely, I think they open up this interesting question, and especially for startups and even large companies alike, are audits really check the box exercises? Are they supposed to be something that's ongoing? Looking back at these audit compliance platforms, I think they're making the argument that things should be a little bit more regular and kind of more traditional GRC-like.
Right.
But inherently, at the end of the day, for a lot of these companies, they're really using those platforms or even their own work to just kind of meet the checkbox exercise of compliance.
Right.
This is probably more a philosophical question about whether you view them as check the box or something more strategic, but a larger question for sure.
Right. Yeah. And I think traditionally, and especially with startups, they view them as check the box because, again, they have all these other priorities. They wear multiple hats, right? And they're, it's like, why do I have to do this? And, somebody's telling them, well, we're not going to, buy your product unless you meet these, security requirements. So then they just want to run to it, get it done as fast as possible, get past that hurdle so that they can tell everybody, we're security compliant. But I think they should look at it very much differently. You should not look at it as a check the box. It's definitely a strategic opportunity, because I think if they start early, they can build trust, they can improve their security, posture and set it in the right manner from the start. And it can really help them accelerate growth. I mean, I think they have to think about, part of that is you're oftentimes trying to build the trust and maybe establish partnerships, so if you're focusing on your audits more strategically, I think, it does become that competitive advantage because you're working with partners that themselves, may take security very seriously. And if you don't, then as a startup, then it can impact, those relationships. But I think just in general, the security posture, startups, they're getting established. You got people that wear many hats. By working with, an audit firm and working through some of these audits, will help them drive a more strategic approach to build the right security and compliance components into their, environment from day one, instead of 6 months in, now you're scrambling to put something in, and now you have to spend more money that you don't have. And you have to hire consultants that could be expensive to do it, because it's maybe something that if you would have done it, early into the process, based on the recommendations of, from the audit firm we're working on, against the framework, you would have realized this would have been better off for me, early on. But I think one of the more important things too is it's this whole idea of enabling faster growth and expansion, right? I mean, startups are always looking to, they want to go to new markets, industries, are trying to sell to new clients, et cetera. And again, being proactive in this approach around audits, I mean, I think again, it can become that strategic, advantage for them, because they can, one, build the right teams, build the right security posture, demonstrate compliance, and it's going to avoid a lot of costly security, issues and gaps down the road.
Mm-hmm. That's very interesting. Yeah, and I think ultimately this is taking us to a place where there does need to be some form of change in some form or fashion. Yeah, especially even if it is seen as a check the box or a gate to new business for startups, then we have to make sure that gate is commensurate with reducing risk, but also easier for them to get through the process, right? I don't think there should be a decrease, and we're not advocating for a decrease in cybersecurity requirements
Right.
or regulations, but
Yeah.
the process doesn't have to be painful. On the
No,
flip side, of course, for auditors, same deal.
absolutely.
So with all of that, we've kind of identified pain points on both sides of the coin. And Chris, you and I, in our personal experiences over the years, have seen this from both sides of the coin, both being auditors and being on the other side, having to go through these audits and get
Right.
companies through them.
Right.
It's not a fun process. So
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting that anybody should be having fun with audits, but it
Right.
definitely, again, it doesn't have to be painful.
No.
So this is probably the larger question then to you is,
Mhm.
what does a better process potentially look like? Even just from an agnostic perspective, what are some of the ways that we can
Mhm.
kind of alleviate this pain, or at least slightly modernize, or hopefully totally modernize the audit process?
Yeah, no, really great question. And I think, the good thing, I think the modern market has started to make the shift over the last few years. And, I think that's going to accelerate, over time. But yeah, I mean, a better audit process, I don't think is a big change. I think, it's got to come down to, there needs to be more automation. It needs to be more continuous. And it has to really integrate right into the daily operations and how business operations work into their workflows, instead of like this last minute, this audit comes up and I need this do this audit last minute. And especially with all the manual approaches, that, really creates just the compliance fatigue. It creates frustrations with the auditors and with the audit clients. And so I think all these tools can enable, I think there's a lot of tools and things out there that can enable auditors to improve upon their process and not take the auditor out of the equation. So there's things like automate evidence collection, big time waster for many audits, because one, the resources that you're depending on, evidence, the type of evidence you're trying to gather, may be hard to find or whatever. But if you have maybe an automated way to do that using some of these compliant platforms or even other ways, it's going to save a ton of time. The evidence itself is going to be more reliable.
Mhm.
Being able to follow up and get additional evidence is going to become easier. And this is going to be a big time changer. I mean, it already is a big time changer for any clients. It can save, clients, auditors, probably 30% of their time,
Mhm.
and usually the biggest frustration for, many of our audit clients. But I think, and we talked about collaboration. I think better communication between teams, instead of using maybe multiple tools, things get lost in translation. So you got to really centralize communication between the auditor and the auditees and your clients, to make sure that, this process can stay fluid and it doesn't get frustrating, really easily. Um, with these compliance automation tools that are out there, there's gonna be a lot more integration, but that allows for the continuous monitoring. So we talked
Mhm.
about point in time. Well, this is allow the monitor over periods of time. So more reliance on information from the auditee, that's more going to be more reliable based on, maybe it is a point in time, but it's based on something that's been happening over time. So I think all of that just, again, allows for better audits, better quality audits, to be completed. Data analytics, again, a big thing today. There's a lot of data out there. And I think, this just can improve auditors' ability to make, better decisions, improve their auditing procedures, and provide really deeper insights for their clients. And again,
Deeper insights and better experience, I think, as
absolutely.
well, right?
Absolutely. I think that's the thing. Client audits, instead of just being this audit and I'm just telling you what maybe already want to know, you can provide more valuable feedback on things that you maybe solve some root cause issues, et cetera, using these approaches, collaborative approach, saving time with evidence collection, using some of the continuous monitoring capabilities and all this data just will allow not only the auditor, I think, to be able to provide a better experience, it'll be a better experience for them, but the client's going to get more value from you as the auditor, and you become more of a trusted partner, going forward. So I think that's the big thing where we're headed. And I think the shift is changing, and I think it's going to start changing a lot more aggressively over the next several years.
I think that's a good point. And I especially like this point about data analytics, I think, because ultimately it does translate to good customer service, right? This idea that we can understand how we're doing at audits, keep track of things. I mean, think about with spreadsheets and emails, how often we lose track of tasks as auditors, things slip through the cracks and you're at the finish line and you're like, oh, wow, we totally forgot this whole thing. You're losing track of that. Or, auditees are going through this process, these small startups, and they just want to know how much longer, because they've got, $1 million deal riding on getting this thing done in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Where are we? Where's the progress, right? You don't get that from a spreadsheet. You might get it from a status call, but all of this is ripe for just being tracked and modernized, I suppose, to a certain extent. Not even modernized. We're in 2025. This is 25 plus years overdue. So,
well, and I think, just to finish off that point, I mean, again, the automating and aspect of things, again, automating these processes, doesn't, and all these integrations that you're doing, it doesn't take away from the auditor being able to do their job. That's not the intent. I think a lot of these solutions, it's actually, as you said, really to enable the auditor to be better at what they do. But that in and of itself, it's got to reduce stress for them. It lowers their costs. They can pass that back to their audit clients. And ultimately, I think they can help their audit clients turn it really into, more of a competitive advantage over time, with offering different, services and abilities that really helps them, build a better security, privacy, and compliance posture, going forward.
Yeah.
So I think that's
I used to run certain types of audits, right? There were numbered requests and things. And the way I would do it was I would put it in the subject line, right? And then I'm emailing it to the client. And then I'm going back through essentially my inbox and going, okay, which ones have responses? That means I've gotten a response. And if I don't have a response, that means I don't have it back. So I need to re-email them. But of course, I'm chucking it over the fence and hoping, it's one, to the right person, two, it gets picked up and dealt with. Worst case, right? Sometimes they would even have to assign a whole project manager on the other side to manage and make sure that their side was giving the answers to every email. So you're CCing those people on it. So they're helping to track. You're just bringing a ton of people and time all to reach the same outcome, which is probably a piece of paper at the end. So what is the point there?
Agreed.
Chris, it would be subtle to say, of course, I'm guessing this is all teeing up and probably where hey, look at that. Audora comes in as you've provided your artwork here. Give us the elevator pitch. What is Audora doing and why is it important and maybe helping to relieve some of this pain?
Yeah. Well, thanks, Alex. Yeah. So Audora was created, as, to address a lot of those, items that we just spoke about. Really, a tool focused on automating the audit management process, basically a platform. And, the big thing is it was designed by auditors and cybersecurity professionals for auditors. So our goal is to make it, work within the way an auditor, conducts all of these things we just talked about today, to really simplify those. So it's really to allow for faster audits through that automation. I think we can, we feel like we can help them reduce time, effort, and costs, and just make that experience not only better for them, but make the experience better, for clients. And again, part of that is, trying to run all of your audits through Audora. I mean, we want to, at some point, we feel like our platform gives us that flexibility to be able to add unlimited frameworks. It's really a simple UI that we can build, custom dashboards, notifications, do different integrations, but also add any and all frameworks that our customer needs. So we're building a solution to be really, we're calling it kind of a boundless solution, so that can keep adjusting and building it to, to our customers' needs. We wanted to accelerate the audit process, but also, really most importantly, we feel like it'll enable growth, right? We talked about earlier, if you have solutions that allow you to save a lot of this time and effort, you can teach your auditors how to do different frameworks, do more audits, maybe provide value-added, services or feedback that you weren't able to do before, because you're now able to conduct your audit in one solution, in one platform. All your work papers can live there, allowing you other opportunities and passing on, passing those cost savings and passing on your resources and ability to support your clients even more effectively than ever before. I think we're really what our goal is with Audora.
That's very cool, and I think that's the right place to be in all this is helping them be more efficient in that. It raises an interesting proposition, of course. What do you do with that extra efficiency? And as you noted, maybe it's add new types of audits, seek additional business, or I suppose take extra vacations.
Right.
But I think that's all fits in there. Definitely probably one of the big things I think you mentioned a little bit earlier, and you sort of alluded to there. The door isn't intended to replace auditors, right? It's just to make this process more efficient, I guess, or smoother, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think the big thing is, we wanted to build a platform for auditors to use to make, their life easier and not replace them, right? Instead of chasing down, these screenshots or chasing down evidence, manually. So trying to reduce the aspect of those manual repetitive tasks that take up a lot of time, which, like we talked about, we've both been through audits before and conducted them. There's a lot of time spent chasing a lot of things down or things getting lost, instead of the focus on what the auditor really wants to do, which is be able to they have the right evidence to be able to, do the most effective testing and be able to provide the most valued feedback, and even if it's additional conversations that give them time to do that, instead of all the scope has been collecting information, they can focus on working more with the audit client and then building, ultimately the report that's going to be much more valuable to them, instead of maybe just the standard report because it's all you had time to build. Maybe building in some additional, like we talked about, insights, etc. Allowing the auditor to be, better, smarter, learn new things, learn new frameworks, etc., to just be more valuable for, their clients, going forward.
Interesting. Staying focused on auditors there. I mean, what do you see in the next 3 to 5 years for them, right? Tools like Audora are going to be out there. We have all these, audit compliance automation tools like Vanta and Drata. What does the market look like for auditors and audit firms?
Yeah, no, I think the big thing, as I said, I think there's already been a lot of change, and I think over those next 3 to 5 years, we're going to see, a movement away from a lot of this even more. I mean, I think one of the big drivers is going to be AI. I mean, we've all heard the news about AI. There's the goods, the bads, and I'm not sure what's going to happen with it. But I mean, I think ultimately, AI is an aspect of, as part of the solution that can help within the the audit industry. I mean, we see it. It can help streamline evidence collection. Can help detect anomalies, can reduce some of the mundane tasks, and it can help make audits faster. I think it's there and it has its purpose. For us, in the way we think about it with Audora, AI's got to be responsible AI. So again, it kind of goes back to it should, reduce the mundane task, improve your audit process, but not be designed to really replace the auditor. So, because again, AI is important and it's going to help address some of that automation, but the auditor understands a lot of things about their client, the intent, and other things that AI maybe someday will replace. But I think the auditor and the human factor is really, really key going forward. But AI is going to be, I think, a big play. I think these integration, continuous compliance, and these integration-only platforms like the Vanta and Dratas. I mean, they're able to collect all out of this, evidence, become the authoritative source for, your evidence, your policies, etc. So being able to, continue to work with them and having platforms that can integrate. Again, you have a trusted source instead of having somebody to go and look in their pile of documents and scan it and send it to you. Well, it's a trusted source, and if it gets outdated, it can be easily updated. So, the reliance on that is going to be, I think, continue to be a big thing. It'll push the cost of audits down. But again, pushing some of the costs down, so I think it's a bad thing because it allows auditors to provide other value-added services, going forward. But there's also the big demand, that these tools will enable. And like for us, audits are wanting to be conducted remotely. It used to be you went to the client site, you did it.
It's in the conference room.
Exactly. In the conference room with everybody. And, you have to schedule all these meetings and reschedule these meetings, which again is all part of that time waste that we see. But now most of these audits are being conducted remotely. And not only that, with offshore resources. So these automation tools that can be, worked on, 24/7, 365, you can have teams, in various places being able to work on that audit. And the good thing is because it's in one platform, things don't get lost. The tasks are there. You can assign the tasks. You can follow the process. You can communicate within the solution. So that kind of continues to enable the remote capability, but at the same time, and working with offshore resources, but it also can help enhance the aspect or basically from the reporting side of things and testing, you're going to get better testing, better reliance on, the evidence you've got. And I think the reporting is going to will become out better than ever before, because you're using, again, trusted sources of data, automation, and some other things, and letting the auditor just utilize the solution to conduct, the theoretical and all the other parts they need to come out with, that, solution and resolution and feedback for the client on, from security and compliance perspective.
Interesting. What about the other side then, as we look ahead for kind of startups, as they enter this new ecosystem, some may have purchase subscriptions to these, audit compliance automation tools.
Right.
Others may be faced with this prospect of looking down the pipeline for needing to get some sort of compliance-related certification to win new work.
Yeah.
What about them? What does kind of their world look like? And more importantly, what can they be doing to kind of prepare for this new age of audits that's rapidly approaching?
Yeah, no, I think we talked about it a little earlier. I mean, I think because they have that opportunity, they should start, building, security and compliance really into the daily operations, from day one, and focusing on, maybe working with solutions that allow them to, automate the evidence, store and collect that evidence in one place, be able to monitor their security environment and controls more in real time. Again, they try to move fast paced. They've got a lot of competing priorities. They usually lack resources. So thinking about, maybe investing in, solutions that allow them, to focus on building that security, security environments that just simplifies all that for them because they don't have the resource will really help them, again, build the right security program when they have to, they go into an audit. They're already somewhat prepared. They can, go to their maybe, automation tool or platform that has a lot of their information there. They can work with their auditor to work with a solution like Audora to conduct the audit. All these things, I think, is being proactive in, really preparing and building all of this into your, environment from day one is going to make it far less painful for them. As they go forward, because I mean, startups just, again, moving at the speed, the pace, and with the resources. I mean, you do want the security components, built in early on, and you wait 6 or 9 months, all of a sudden, you have to spend money you don't have. Well, and oftentimes it's something you probably could have done early on. So I think, again, focusing on finding, solutions where they can, work with automation and evidence. And it's really like how they work today, I think is going to be the big focus.
Yeah. Chris, I mean, this is excellent insight for, I think, kind of what the pain points that a lot of companies are feeling for themselves as they're going through this. Startups are feeling especially. And then, of course, even the audit firms who I think have just kind of maybe accepted, hey, this is the way it is. But I think it's one of those classic, it doesn't have to be this way moments. I think you're right. This pressure for faster audits, easier or smoother audits rather, and especially the kind of rise in compliance automation tools, that's all a huge piece in it. I think all of that probably, and this is kind of my bonus question here for you, Chris, is it feels to me then like the audit market on the whole, and kind of where this is all headed for
Mhm,
auditors and the audit process,
mhm.
the audit market feels like it's becoming more commoditized in terms of kind of what these are going to be. I don't think we're necessarily going to move to a click to print SOC 2 anytime soon,
No?
but it feels like this may be a starting kind of a maturation of this, and it's starting to become a rinse and repeat experience for audit firms and I suppose startups and auditees alike.
Yeah, no, I would agree. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely moving toward that. And again, with the advent of a lot more automation tools and these compliance automation platforms, et cetera. Yeah, I mean, audits are being able, to be done faster, quicker, and for a lot less cost. And so I think it's already moving that way. And our idea, in working within that, kind of space is, again, you have these compliance platforms, providing, a lot of these benefits. We see it as, the auditors, they need a solution that will allow them also to, as audits, do change, become commoditized, resources are move offshore, the costs of an audits are going down. We're providing a solution where you can save money, time, effort, cost in doing your audits in one place, but then allows you to do as many audits, do different audits, and expand, and then apply those cost savings, that effort to doing other things in your firm and try to grow your practice into whether it's you want to jump into different spaces, whether it's different audits, whether you want to provide, consulting services to that effect. We want to help them be a part of that journey, by allowing them to, a solution that they can trust. They can, they can conduct all their audits in one place, and, really, again, help them save that time, effort, money, and grow their business to where they want it to be.
Amazing. In all of this, Chris, in a fascinating discussion around audits and kind of maybe where they're headed.
Yeah.
So in summary, I guess I could say audits are definitely broken. Companies that are going through them are overwhelmed in all of this, and even audit firms themselves are kind of stuck in their ways and overworked, especially as they're trying to keep up with the number of companies needing to go through these audits.
Right.
All that being said, it sounds like there's a smarter, faster way forward, and Adora is leading that charge.
Yeah.
My big question to you then, of course, is if people want to learn more, where should they go, and where can they find out more information about Adora?
Yeah, thanks, Alex, and really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and share some of my thoughts and perspectives. Where we're headed in the audit industry. Yeah, if you want more information on Adora, we please come out and check us out. We've got a lot of exciting things that we're doing, and would love any feedback. You can go to www.goadora.com. Our website has a lot of different information. We outline our approach to audit automation. We talk about our Audora Connect, which is our integration platform innovation that we put in, but we've got a lot of information in our FAQs. We've been doing a lot of product releases, so please check them out. Again, we'd love your feedback, but yeah, also you can follow us on, LinkedIn, Blue Sky, Facebook under @GoAdora, to see any and all the latest updates on the platform. But yeah, more importantly, if you want, we'd love to hear from you. You can feel free to schedule the demo. You can go to information@goadora.com, or please reach out to me directly as well. I'd love to hear from you. Love to set up something at chris.watson@goadora.com. So, but thanks again, Alex. I really appreciate it. It's always a pleasure in chatting with you. And, again, thanks for the opportunity to talk a little bit more about the audit space. There's exciting things to come. And I think Audora wants to be a part of that. So again, I really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you today.
That is amazing. Thank you very much, and I appreciate it. As Chris Watson, CEO of Audora, a special thank you to Chris for joining us and diving into everything about audits, talking about the audit market commoditization, this pain points for auditors and auditees alike, and really kind of the future of cybersecurity audits. We'll be sure to drop all those links that Chris mentioned in the show notes as well. So if you like what you heard, be sure to follow or subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. And you can catch all of our past episodes and upcoming ones at hivesystems.com/HiveLive. And hey, if you learned something new, share this episode with a friend or teammate. Let's make cybersecurity a little more approachable together. Until next time, remember, when it comes to cybersecurity, you need to act and not react. Thank you.